Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be planting tomatoes. Let's go.
Let's go.
Alright guys, so we're going to be planting some tomatoes. I grew these from seed maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago. This is a purple Cherokee. It's got nice roots. I like to pre-water, make sure it's really watered before you transplant. I got a terracotta. I got a beefsteak. I got one more terracotta. I'm just gonna do 4 real quick. So, onions right here going. Those aren't ready yet, so I'm gonna leave them in. I got some garlic down there. So I'm gonna be single stemming these. I'll show you what that is later. I'm gonna plant them along the back wall right there, and they're gonna grow up these bamboo shoots. These last year I had some that made like 15 feet tall. So I'll show you how to do this real quick. So tomatoes, you could plant them deep. It's better to plant them deep. If you could see all those little furry, there's some furry things along the stem. Those have a chance to all be roots. So if you plant it, we're gonna plant this probably about up to here. So I know you new gardeners don't want to do this, but we're gonna chop off all these to where it's just this. I'm gonna dig a hole and I'm gonna plant it up to there. All right, so we're gonna plant this terracotta right there. Show you how to prepare this hole real quick. So I notice if you don't plant it close to the wall, like plant it maybe here, even though I'm gonna grow it up this, it just seems like it grows better versus being on the wall. I'm gonna move all this out the way. This soil is really good right here. So dig a hole. We're gonna dig a deep hole because remember we're gonna plant it up to there. So the hole's gonna have to be about 10 inches deep. There's tons of worms in here. Nice dark soil. So when I'm not growing, I'll move all these leaves back. I always have leaves over here. Mulch. It breaks down, it feeds the soil, it's good for it. I always cover it with leaves. And before I cover it with leaves, I'll put a bunch of compost down. Some kind of compost or manure. Just so it can sit over time. I'll let it sit for a while. So let's get a little rough fit. That looks about good right there. Once we got that hole dug out, I'm gonna put some of this in there. This is just some tomato tone. You can use any any fertilizer you want. It's just a well balanced. It's a 4, 6, 8, or 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6. And I'll show you how I prepare this hole. I'll just put a little handful. It's probably like 4 tablespoons. Sprinkle it in the bottom. Got some worm castings. Just throw a handful in there. These tomatoes off to a good start. I'll just work that in just a little bit. And then I'm gonna put this in. I'm just gonna set this in there. Another 3 or 4 tablespoons of the fertilizer right into the soil that I'm gonna fill the hole with. Same thing with the worm casting. And just fill it back. Right before I fill it all the way to the top, I'm gonna get some compost I made. Making your own compost is probably one of the best things you could do for the garden. This all comes from food scraps, so this is gonna feed the plant excellent. Just take a couple handfuls and load it in. Just press it in a little, not too crazy, just kind of get the air bubbles out. A little more compost and put the mulch back like that. You want to give it some fertilizer. The granule fertilizer, it takes time to work. It breaks down, it feeds the plant throughout the season. This feeds it immediately. As soon as I pour it in there, dilute it, maybe 2-3 tablespoons per 2 gallons water. Give it a nice drink. You can water the leaves and everything. This is just fish fertilizer. I'm just probably giving it maybe a half gallon. The soil was already kind of wet. If your soil is dry, it's been raining here, so if your soil is dry, once you dig the hole, fill the hole up with water a couple times. Let it drain, fill it up, let it drain. Make sure your transplant's really wet just to give it a good start. Put it in the hole and then water it in more. If you put a transplant in there, say the transplant's nice and wet and the soil around it is dry, it's like a sponge. You'll put it in and it'll suck all the water out of the transplant and dry it. So make sure it's well watered. All right, so same thing. Move some of this out the way. See, I'm gonna plant it here, so I'm gonna pull this. I'll use this. These aren't done. This is a purple onion. I'm just gonna use this like a green onion, so that won't go to waste. Move it all out the way. Dig a nice deep hole. All right, so a handful of this fertilizer. A little handful of the worm castings. I'll throw a little compost in there. I remember we're gonna bury it deep, so we can cut off all these. If I wanted to, I could cut that one off, but I'll leave it. That's deep enough. See the roots? You could break them up a little. All right. And just backfill. I'll show you about these single stems later, so if you're interested in that, just subscribe to the channel. I'm doing everything in real time as I'm doing it, so you'll see the updates on these. And that's that. I'm just gonna water this in. Water it in with the fishing motion. You're good to go. I'm just gonna do the next 3. Then I'll get back to you. All right, so that's the video. Just a little recap. I dug the hole deep. Dig it deep enough to go about there. Cut all these off. You go boom, boom, boom. Cut all that off. Dig the hole. I threw a handful of fertilizer, whatever's on sale. Threw a handful of worm castings, a couple handfuls of some compost. Backfilled it and put more compost on top. Watered it in with some fish emulsion. Get them off to a good start. So I'm gonna be single stemming these, and I'll show you what that means as the season progresses. So you could check that out. Subscribe, follow along if you want to see some more of this stuff. Yeah. Give a thumbs up. Say bye, Sophie.
Bye.
What you want to do now?